One of the most important things that's going on right now with immigration are the incredible processing backlogs. Immigration cases are just taking so long. They're taking so long, and it's not getting better. We live in an era of unprecedented immigration backlogs. So if you're thinking about filing an immigration case right now and you're wondering how long it's going to take, the answer is longer than it should. If you ask an immigration lawyer, how long is my immigration case going to take? The answer is a matter of pure speculation. If you look at the processing times that are published on USCIS website, this is pure fiction. We have no idea. They have no idea how long these immigration cases are taking. If you don't know me, my name is Josh Goldstein. I'm an immigration lawyer here in Los Angeles. I help people across the country and around the world reach their immigration goals. And today we are talking about these ridiculous processing times, and most importantly, what you can do about it. There are techniques that you can use that will help you reach your immigration goals. And joining me to discuss this topic today is Halle. Why don't you introduce yourself, please? Welcome.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for having me. Hey guys, this is Halle. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm admin of Telegram channel and some of immigration groups. And I'm so happy I can help you guys to prepare for your interview, answer your questions, and help you to be more familiar with the immigration process. And
So,
yeah.
so the questions that we want to get into today concern the processing times. People get stuck at every single stage in an immigration case. Some people get stuck when their cases are pending with USCIS. Some people get stuck because they can't get an interview. Other people get stuck because they've gotten an interview and they've completed the interview and then they can't get a decision on their case. So we see delays after delays after delays. And sometimes the cases will have other components as well. For example, we have people who go to their visa interviews. This happened to one of our clients. Went to the visa interview. They requested that the person file a waiver. We prepared and filed a waiver. Then we waited and waited and waited and waited to get a decision on the waiver. Finally, we got the waiver approved. They never processed the case. It's
Oh
stuck.
my God.
So we
Oh,
had to go
that's
back
so sad.
and we had to file a lawsuit to get the waiver approved. We had to file a lawsuit to get the case processed after that. So the name of the game is to file lawsuits to challenge processing delays. Now, when I talk about filing a lawsuit to challenge a processing delay, let me explain what I mean. This is a particular type of lawsuit called a writ of mandamus. And it's essentially the basis of this lawsuit is an allegation that there has been an unreasonable delay, that the agencies, USCIS, the embassies, the State Departments, the asylum offices, etc., that these agencies are not doing what they're supposed to do. What are they supposed to be doing? Well, they're supposed to be taking the application that you prepared and filed and reviewing it. We cannot demand that they approve your application. We hope that they do. But it's fair that we ask them to make a decision, yes or no, within a reasonable period of time. And when they're not doing that, I think it's actually fraud. If you take an application and an application that's been diligently prepared, and then they just don't do anything, um, I think it's fraud. They're not doing their jobs at all. They're taking your filing fees, they're taking your applications, they're you're following the process set out by Congress, and they're not. So, what do you think about all this, Halle?
Yeah, actually, it's very unfortunate, and thousands of families all over the world are struggling from the waiting times. And I totally agree with you. We should challenge them to expedite and expedite the cases and give them the visa. You know, it's their right to get the visa and join their family in the U.S. And I
Well,
think,
if
yeah.
someone sometimes they say, well, the reason for the delay is that we have to do a background check or a security check, and
Mhm.
that's appropriate. I think that the government should thoroughly investigate anyone who's seeking a visa to the United States. The problem is they're not doing that. If a case has been pending with a security check or a background check, and it's been pending for 2 years, there's no one checking anything. They only complete the check and they only actually process the check once we file the lawsuit.
Oh, really? Wow,
When they
that's good.
say there's a security check or a background check, my assumption is that they're not checking anything.
Oh my God.
And it's sitting there.
Yeah.
People are like, well, my background check's not done. Your background check's never going to get done because they're not doing anything. It's only when we file the lawsuit that it gets done. The typical trajectory of a lawsuit works like this. It takes our team about 2-3 weeks to prepare and file the lawsuit in most cases. Once we file the lawsuit, then the case goes dark. Usually for about 2 months, we don't hear anything. After 2 months, the government has a responsibility to file an answer to the lawsuit in court, and they never do that, rarely. Instead, they ask for an extension of time. And this is very discouraging for our clients. But we don't get discouraged because we know that once the extension of time is requested, that's when they begin to really actually work on that. That's typically, I mean, of course, every case is different, but typically during that extension period, during that month is when we see movement on a case. We see notifications that the background check is clear, or a request for evidence, whatever the case may be, a request to do another interview, signs of movement, which we take as very encouraging developments. So it's typically around the end of the third month, maybe into the fourth month, that we typically get the result. Now, we certainly have gotten cases, delayed cases approved in less than 2 months, sometimes less than 1 month. But for the most part, you're looking at around 3 months, 4 months in most cases. So let's talk about this.
Yeah, sure.
What questions do you have?
Of course, I have lots of questions. I received many questions from our applicants on Telegram groups. And before that, do you want me to translate that for Iranian community?
Please do so.
Sure, thank you. دوستان عزیز، آقای جاش در مورد تأخیرهایی که توی پرونده های مختلف و توی مراحل مختلف پیش میان توضیح دادن. توی بعضی از مراحل شما لازم هست که منتظر باشین. برای مثال باید صبر کنین تا از USCIS تایید بگیرین یا از NBC. ولی توی بعضی از مراحل دیگه هست که میتونین برای تأخیر اقدام کنید و read of mandamus رو فایل بکنید. معمولا به این صورت هستش که حدود 2 تا 4 ماه طول میکشه. کیسایی بوده که زیر 2 ماه نتیجه گرفتن و ویزاشون رو سریعتر دریافت کردن، ولی به طور کلی میشه گفتش که میانگین کیسا میتونه 3-4 ماه طول بکشه. و اینکه درخواست اکستنشن میکنن به این معنی هست که در واقع کیس در حال جریانه و یک بخش طبیعی از این پروسه هستش. ممکنه که از شما اینترویو مجدد بخوان، ممکنه مدارکی بیشتر ازتون بخوان و همه اینها داره نشون میده که پرونده شما داره به جلو میره. Okay, that's great. Let's get started.
I also want to welcome our friends on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and everywhere else. We have Sheila Noorpuri. Thank you for joining us in. And Daniel Lopez. He says, how can we join your YouTube live? I've done that in the past. I could have you on. But in the meantime, while we have Hale, why don't you put your question in the comments and we'll try to get to it as soon as we can. Aman Hussein, our friend on YouTube, thank you so much. We'll take your question first here, my friend. Let's see what you have to say. It says here, as an expert, Do you know why the U.S. embassies don't give direct answers about cases in AP for a long time, and why their responses are always irrelevant to the question? Boy, that's a great question. The embassies and the consulates are not in the customer service business. One of the challenging parts of dealing with these delays is that there is effectively no meaningful way to communicate with the embassy or consulate. You have to, in most cases, fill out a form, and that form then generates a response that is the equivalent of no response. If you ask them, why is my case in administrative processing, they never explain to you specifically why your case was singled out for administrative processing. I mean, that's what happens in most cases. Instead, what they say is, your case is undergoing administrative processing. This is a routine check, blah, 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 blah. Please contact us after 180 days. Don't contact us until 180 days have passed. They say something usually about 180 days, but they never explain to you what's really going on, what's the cause of the delay, why your case is pending, why it hasn't been approved, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They never really tell you why that is. So why is it that they don't do that? Why don't they provide answers? I think it has to do with their lack of interest. They don't care about you. They don't care about the people who are appearing before it. They don't care about applicants. They treat people like garbage. And that's why we sue them. The only way to get respect, to get answers, and to get your case processed in a timely manner is to take action and to file a lawsuit. And that's why we do what we do. And I want to thank you for your question. The next question on YouTube I want to go to is Amar Rashid. First of all, salam alaikum. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us. He says, hi, we are the Iraqi allies, some of us in AP for 10 years. Now myself is six years. Now my son is 6 years, and all of us SIV applicants. If you have an application for an SIV case, a special immigrant visa case, that means you worked as a translator or a contractor and you helped the American military. First of all, I want to thank you for your service. And secondly, I think your case deserves to be processed as quickly as possible and should be a huge priority. There is no case that I like working on better than helping people who've helped the United States government. And Amar, I hope you and others contact me. I would love to help all of you. I'm going to put my email in this chat, and I want you to contact me, and I want you to say, no more waiting in your subject line. When you email me, I want you to put no more waiting. My team and I will respond to you immediately, and I want to thank you again for your question. All right. With that in mind, let's get right to your questions, Holly.
Sure. The first question is that an applicant asked, my brother applied for me on January 2009. It's been about 14 years and I'm still waiting. My mother became US citizen recently. And the question is, can she apply for me or change my case to get the interview faster?
Okay, that's a great question. Let me see if I summarize it correctly. Our friend who asked this question has been waiting and waiting and waiting because his sister applied for him.
His brother, yeah.
His brother. Okay, so your brother applied for you many years ago. You've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And the question is, can your US citizen mother file a petition for you? The answer is yes. You can have multiple visa petitions going. For example, you could invest $1 million and you could get an EB-5 visa petition. You could get married to a US citizen, have another visa petition. Your mother could petition for you. Your brother could petition for you. Your sister could petition for you. You could have all kinds of multiple petitions going at the same time. Each petition is processed independently. Each petition would be given a separate filing or priority date. Each petition would have a separate and different waiting period. And the question that I often get in this situation is, well, why should I file another visa petition? My sister already applied for me. My brother already applied for me. Why would I have my mother apply for me? And the answer is that maybe the petition filed by your mother, maybe that case would be faster. Maybe not. It's a matter of pure speculation. But there's nothing wrong at all with filing more than one visa petition. The only disadvantage is that you have to pay a separate filing fee and go through a separate application process. And I'll tell you one strategy that I've used in other cases. Sometimes we'll have a parent that applies for a child, and it takes many years. And if the parent is quite elderly, then we have to consider the possibility that at some point your mother or father is going to pass away, as we all are. It's a very morbid thought. But if the petitioner dies while the case is pending, then typically the case also dies. It ends. And so if you have multiple applications filed, then especially from a younger petitioner, for like your brother or sister, then you increase the possibility that you would avoid the scenario where your visa petitioner passes away. And not only do you have the tragic loss of a loved one, but you also have the tragic loss of your immigration case.
Yeah, good to know that. Thanks for explaining that. And in this case, because he's waiting since January 2009, it's about almost 14 years. If his mother applies for him, so with a new priority date, maybe it takes about, for F3 case, maybe it takes about more than 10 years. Or is it better to wait for the to become current with the F4 case?
Well, I think then you're getting into some speculation. You're thinking, well, this case is going to take a certain period of time, and then the mother's case is going to take a little more time, and would it make sense to file it? And I really don't like that line of thinking because, sorry, but I mean, look, the filing fee for an I-130 is I don't actually remember. Maybe it's $525 or something like that. It's roughly $500. Why not file the other application? What's the worst thing that could happen? You don't actually use it. But what if something happens, God forbid, and the visa petitioner were to pass away?
Yeah.
Time goes on. I mean, I like having multiple applications filed. I like multiple chances. One of them may come through. The worst thing that can happen is if your mother files for you, is that it's a waste of money. You've wasted the filing fee and made some effort by filing it, but you also give yourself a better chance of getting approved. Also, the processing times are highly unpredictable. We don't know how long it will take for a sibling petition to get approved. They've been waiting for many years, but you don't really know where the finish line is because it could retrogress, it could move forward. There could be all sorts of things happening. I think it's sort of like buying insurance. You spend a little money on it and you mitigate a risk. I would just file it without trying to speculate as to how long it may or may not take, because who knows how long.
Yeah, I know. Actually makes sense. That's great. Let me translate that. یکی از دوستان پرسیدن که برادر ایشون سال ژانویه 2009 براشون اپلای کردن و ایشون منتظر هستن که طبق ویزا بولتن کارنت بشن، ولی هنوز کیسشون کارنت نشده و توی این فاصله مادر ایشون سیتیزن شدن و سوالشون این هستش که آیا پیشنهاد میکنید که از طریق مادرشون هم براشون اپلای بشه یا اینکه منتظر باشن کیس F4 به نتیجه برسه. آقای جاش توضیح دادن که هر زمان که شما بخواید میتونید که چند تا پتیشن جداگانه داشته باشین. هر کدوم از کیس ها individual priority date داره و اینها به طور مجزا پیش میره. به همین خاطر شما میتونین کیس ازدواج داشته باشین، کیس ویزای کاری داشته باشین، برادرتون اپلای کنن و مادرتون اپلای کنن و با تجربه کیس هایی که وجود داره ما دیدیم که متاسفانه بعضی اوقات پدر یا مادر یا یکی از اعضای خانواده که پتیشنر هست فوت میکنه و اون کیس بسته میشه. به همین خاطر پیشنهاد ایشون هست که مادرشون هم براتون درخواست بدن. Okay, that's great. Let's go to the next question.
Let's do it. What have you got for me?
Someone asked, guys, I applied for my mother 2 years ago. Her case is in year 1. Since NBC invites applicants in order of documentary qualified date, could you please tell me when my mother get an interview appointment?
I cannot tell you when your mother will get her interview appointment. I don't know when the case was documentarily qualified. And even if I did, it would be pure speculation on my part. And that's one of the most challenging things about this. If you ask me how long an immigration case takes, the only answer I can give you is that it will take longer than you wish. We have many cases where people just can't seem to get interviews. They wait and they wait and they wait and they wait. And, you know, even when we file lawsuits, the government still cannot estimate when it will complete the interview. Even the attorneys representing the State Department won't do that. All they'll say is, we had this many cases on at this time, this many cases here and there. And you can't really discern when the interview will take place. All I can tell you is at some point, if you've waited, you're not going to want to wait anymore. And that's the point where you're going to consider whether it makes sense for you to consider a mandamus lawsuit to challenge the processing delay. I would say if your case was documentarily qualified and you don't have an interview after a year or 8 months, then it's time to sue them.
Oh, okay, got it. And do you recommend to compare, for example, their documentary qualified date with the DQ of applicants that they are interviewing? Can we compare, for example, my DQ with the DQ of someone who got his interview? And
yes, you can, but to what end? Someone has an interview that was documentarily qualified before you or after you, it would have to be the same case type also. But even then, I think that could be, you know, what information do you get from that? You learn that some case was processed before, that was your case is not being processed in the manner in which it should, because somebody who was documentarily qualified after you already got their interview, and that's upsetting. But it's hard. I think it's hard, in my opinion. I think it's hard to say, well, my friend got documentarily qualified a month ago and he just got his interview, so that means I have 1 more month to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could work that way, but I think there's a lot of speculation going on.
Yeah, I know, because it's very common in Telegram groups that they are asking regularly to know that, okay, you got interview, please share when was your DQ, and then compare to themselves. If it's close to each other, they realize that, okay, maybe I can get my interview appointment in next few months, you know, maybe.
Well, I'll tell you a story. We were going through a lawsuit and I asked the attorney representing the embassy, you know, do you have an estimated date of completion? No, I don't. And what she did was she provided she provided information about the number of cases they've processed per month and the number of cases that were ahead of them in line. And, you know, we're left to guess as to how long it might take, but at the rate they were processing him, it might take 4 years to get an interview. That's what I was left with. And if it's going to take 4 years, then I think that it's time to file a lawsuit.
Of course.
And have them go to court. I actually want to stop for a minute. We have Stephen who asked a really good question. Thank you so much for joining us, Stephen. He says here, we're going through the I-601 waiver process. We're 16 months into it. And the website says that 80% of these waivers are taking 21.5 months. Is the other 20% ever shorter, or is this just a guess? I'm asking. So when you look at the processing times on the USCIS website, this is bullshit. It's made up. It's just numbers that they put up there. I don't believe that this is accurate in any way. Because also, and as Stephen pointed out, what does it mean that 80% are processed after 21 months? It doesn't mean anything. It could mean that 80% are processed, you know, some of them are processed in 2 months, and some of them are processed after that. I think it's pure speculation. I think if your waiver's been pending for 16 months, you're very close to the point where you could successfully file a writ of mandamus lawsuit. And by the way, Stephen, when you file a lawsuit to challenge the I-601 waiver, you should also sue the State Department, because what you'll find will happen is if you get your waiver approved, then they don't process the visa. You've got a piece of paper in your hand that says your waiver's approved. You contact the consulate, 6 or 8 months go by, and they don't do anything. That happens over and over and over. If you're interested in talking more about mandamus as an option, I'll put my website, my email up, josh@jgoldlaw.com. Shoot me an email. Say no more waiting in the subject line. You've got my immediate attention, and I'll connect you with our team. We have directors of client engagement at our law firm that talk to prospective new clients about how mandamus works and what we can do. But it's ridiculous. It's absurd.
Yeah, I know that's very unfortunate. And let me invite our Iranian friends to file mandamus. دوستان عزیز، اگر پرونده شما به تأخیر خورده و برای مصاحبه بیشتر از 8 ماه یا 1 سال هست که منتظر هستین و کیس شما کارین هست، شما میتونید رید آف منdamus فایل کنید. برای این کار تیم حقوقی آقای جاش گلدستین میتونن که پرونده شما رو به عهده بگیرن و تا بتونید هر چه سریعتر ویزاتون رو بگیرید. Okay, that's great. Would you like to read the next question, or would you like me to go to the next question that I received from Telegram groups?
Yeah, but before we get to your next question, I just want to welcome everyone on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all other social channels. And I also want to take a question from Joss. Thank you so much for joining us, Joss. Do you ever attempt to contract the attorney's office before the case goes to trial? So let me clarify what that is. I think what he meant to say is, do you ever send a letter to the U.S. Attorney's Office before filing the lawsuit, and the letter says something like, this case is delayed, and if you don't take action on it, we're going to sue you. And some lawyers and some people think that that is a necessary step. We do not do that, and we don't do it for the simple reason that it's not required and it's not effective. And also, we used to do this in the past, and all it did was waste time, because first of all, we'd write the letter, then we'd send it, and then we'd wait a couple of months. Nothing would happen. They'd never contact us. And so it was actually causing more delay. So we do not do that at all. Of course, once the case gets filed, then an attorney representing the immigration office comes on board, and then we communicate with them, and that's typically how things play out. All right, Hale, let's go to some more questions.
Sure, of course. Let's do this. An applicant asked us, I want to apply for my mother in I-130. Um, from which embassy should I choose to get the interview faster?
Which interview should you choose to get an interview faster?
Which embassy?
Which
Yeah,
embassy?
yeah.
Well, it's very hard to say which embassy you should choose. I don't have a strong opinion about that. I think it's probably something that is a matter of a lot of speculation. Some embassies process more cases than others. Some embassies are bigger than others. I really don't think that there is a magical best option for most people. And of course, if you choose, it should be an embassy it's easy to get to, where you don't need a visa, where you have some connection. I really don't have a great answer on that. It's sort of like, do you want to choose to go into this frying pan or the other frying pan?
I know, yeah. You know that what I see in different groups, they compare the DQ of the person who is interviewing, get the interview time, and see, for example, for year one is about for IR5 case 4 months ago, but for Abu Dhabi it's for example 1 year and a half ago, and they conclude that okay, so maybe it's better to choose year one instead of Abu Dhabi. Do you think is it a good idea to compare this information and act based on that?
Let me just say that I'm really proud of the work that I've done with the Persian community. I love helping people from Iran, and I am so impressed at their resourcefulness and the degree to which they're able to coordinate and share information. And I think that they may have a better understanding of this issue than I do. I don't really. I mean, I think in order to draw those conclusions, you'd have to know exact case type, and they'd have to match case type to case type. And then furthermore, you'd have to know when people were documentarily qualified. Because if you just look at the number of unprocessed cases, you don't know what their capacity to process cases is. So a smaller consulate is going to have less capacity, but maybe that's a better choice. Let me just ask you this: could an Iraqi, could a Persian applicant choose a completely different third country? You could probably choose to go to be processed in Santiago, Chile, or could you go to completely third country?
No, actually, for Iranian visas, only three embassies, Ankara, Abu Dhabi, and Yerevan, can process Iranian cases until they live in another country. Yeah, unfortunately, this
I
is.
want to take a moment now to I'm going to post for anyone who's Persian. I'm going to post our handle for our Telegram group. You can see it here. It's Visas for Iranians, and Hale helps us with the Farsi content and does an amazing job with that. And so I want to share that with you. It's free to join, and there's a lot of information in there that I think is really valuable. We also have a lot of resources. We actually have a new website. I'll put that on the chat as well. This is our website, and if anyone is interested in working with us or needs our help or has questions, you can go to the website and you can book a free case evaluation with our team, a free discovery call to see if there's a way we can help you out. And we also, you can join our email list, and in our newsletters, we share content that we don't put anywhere else. And it's really important. We have over 40,000 people on our mailing list. We send out emails up to 5 times per week. So a lot of the information is super valuable, and I'm proud of all the content we're able to create and share with people. And we do this all because one of the things that I believe is that there's a lot of misinformation out there when it comes to immigration. People are scared, people are desperate, and they end up kind of passing along myths. But anyway, let's go back to some more questions, Hale.
Yeah. The next question is that my mother-in-law went to Abu Dhabi for medical 4 years ago, and my father-in-law came to the US 3 years ago and got his green card. Now my mother-in-law is still waiting. Do you think it is reasonable to file mandamus for her?
So let me just review the facts again. Someone petitioned for his mother, right?
Yes.
And the mother had the interview or did not?
Yeah, she got interview and she did her medical 4 years ago.
When?
4 years ago.
4 years ago?
Yeah, in Abu Dhabi.
Well, you're giggling because you know exactly what I'm going to say. If you had an interview 4 years ago and you've been an AP for 4 years, you need to stop waiting and file a writ of mandamus lawsuit, and you need to do it immediately. You need to stand up and say, I'm not going to take this delay anymore. This is not right. This is not fair. This is not reasonable. And you also need to accept that waiting is not going to solve your problem. You're not going to get the visa simply by waiting. Once you've been waited for 4 years, I want you to imagine your immigration cases in a folder. And the folder is sitting on a shelf along with a whole bunch of other cases. And no one is working on your case. No one has touched your file. No one is opening it. No one is doing anything. 4 years have gone by and your case is effectively lost. It's conceptually lost. They're not doing a damn thing on your immigration case. And they're treating your mother's case with neglect. And the only way you're going to get a solution on that is by suing USCIS. And, you know, sometimes I talk to people all the time who are interested, who have delayed cases. Sometimes they hire us and sometimes they don't. And sometimes when people decide not to hire us, they say, well, I'm going to give it another 6 months. I'm just going to wait until the end of the year, or I'm going to wait till the beginning of the year, or I'm going to wait till the end of the summer, or I'm going to wait until the end of till next summer, or they create some sort of reason to keep waiting. But if you've waited 4 years, there is no way you should be doing that. If you're telling yourself you've waited 4 years, what's going to happen? Are you going to wait 5 years? We've had clients who've waited 7 years in administrative processing, 7 years. And you don't want to, the best time to file a mandamus lawsuit for someone who's waited 4 years would have been about 3 years ago. The second best time to file it would be today. So I hope that this person is listening to the answer and reaches out to us so that we can help them, because nothing would make me happier than to reunite this person with their mother in the United States.
Okay, that's great. Let me translate that to Iranians friends. دوستان عزیز، یکی از دوستان ما پرسیدن که مادر همسرشون 4 سال پیش توی سفارت ابوظبی مصاحبه داشتن و همسرشون که پدر همسرشون میشن 3 سال پیش مصاحبه شدن، ویزا گرفتن و الان گرین کارت دارن، ولی متاسفانه هنوز مادر همسرشون منتظر لویر هستن و ایشون پرسیدن که آیا به نظر شما منطقی هستش که برای ایشون مندیمس فایل کنیم. آقای جاش توضیح دادن که خیلی زمان گذشته و بهتر بود 3 سال پیش برایشون مندیمس فایل میکردین، ولی به هر حال امروز بهترین زمان هست که شما فایل کنید و سریعتر بتونن این ویزا رو بگیرن. Okay, all right. You know that I think at some stages they don't have any option to reduce the waiting time. But at some points, like this case, they have an option. They can reduce the delay, the waiting time. And who don't want to reduce that time, you know?
It makes me mad when I hear that someone has waited 4 years for their mother's visa and the visa is stuck in administrative processing. I think of someone separated from their mother, from their loved one, and this person has gone through and done everything asked of them in the immigration system. They filled out all the forms, they paid all the fees, they did the medical, they showed up. And you know what? I mean, my guess is they're probably at best going to have to do another medical, which is going to add so much time and expense to this whole process. It's so unfair. And I wish that, I mean, when we sue, the best we can hope for is to get the visa approved after a reasonable period of time. But I wish we could help people more. I wish there were a way that we could sue for money damages for pain and suffering. But unfortunately, they won't allow that.
Yeah, I know. You know that I was in administrative processing for more than 10 months, and after they asked me to redo the medical, it was so disappointing. Why should I redo my medical, and why should I spend my savings to go to the Yerevan and redo medical and paying the hotel and traveling fee for that? And but now I think that I couldn't imagine if I couldn't come to the US. So my personal message to my friends is that if you have an option to reduce your waiting times, please do this, because we cannot predict, as Mr. Josh Goldstein mentioned, that we cannot predict how long does it take in near future. And now you have this option to take action and get your visa sooner. You can just go to jgoldlaw.com and take the mandamus quiz. Could you please explain how they can take the quiz, the qualification quiz, please?
Yeah, so when somebody contacts us and says, listen, I'm interested in mandamus, I have a case that's delayed, or they need help with any other type of immigration case, because our firm handles green cards through marriage, naturalization, waivers. We do all sorts of things. When somebody says, hey, I need some help, can you help me out? The first question that we have in response is, well, tell me about your case. I need to know what type of case you have. When did you file your case? How long have you been waiting? How is this impacting your? I need to know a lot of information before we can understand whether we can help you out. So we have a questionnaire with a few simple questions. And after you've answered those questions, you can book a free case evaluation and a strategy session with our team. One of our directors of client engagement will meet with you and explain to you what the options are. We can go over what the estimated processing times are. And if you're interested, we can discuss the cost of our services and all these sorts of things. But it starts by, tell us about your case. We have to know more about your case. And you'll find on our website a link to the questionnaire where you can do that. Jimmy, I want to welcome you from Romania. Thank you so much for joining us. Jimmy says, how long should I wait after I-140 approval? Well, I guess the answer is it depends. If you have an I-140 and you're going through the consular processing system, how long should it take for you to get your visa so that you can come to the US and live and work? If you have a case that's based on an EB-1 or national interest waiver, where you don't have to worry about the case being current, then the processing times are going to be different than if you're EB2 or EB3, where you're going to be in a preference system. So really, I want to know, is your priority date for your category current or not, as per the visa bulletin? And if your case is current, then I would want to know how long that it's been current. So I'd want to explore that, and I'd want to figure it out. So if you're EB3, and when was your case? What's your priority date, Jimmy? I'm waiting for him to post here. Well, we're going to wait to see. Hopefully, Jimmy will chime in with his priority date. But I'm looking at the visa bulletin right now for September of 2023. And for EB3 cases for Romania, they're processing cases that were filed with a priority date of May 1st, 2020. So that means that if your case was filed in April of 2023, well, then according to the visa bulletin, you're not current. And I think one of the mistakes that people make is if they filed their case in April 2023, and as of today, they're processing cases from May of 2020. One of the mistakes that people make is that they think that the processing times indicated today are going to be indicative of what will happen over the next few years. So then they'll think, well, okay, so it took maybe a little more than 3 years for immigration to process cases, since they're working on cases from May of 2020. So they think it's going to take 3 more years, but that may not be true. It could take 6 months. It could become current, or it could take another 6 years. We really don't know. The visa bulletin is absurd. It does not line up with logic. It doesn't proceed in a linear way. All I can tell you, Jimmy, is to check the visa bulletin every single month. Check it every month. Google visa bulletin, State Department, and go to the official.gov website, not some other third-party website, and then check it and see what they put on there, and check it every month and understand how it works. Spend 20 minutes reading it and understanding how this works. And if it seems like it's kind of crazy and doesn't make any sense, then you probably are doing it right.
Oh, good to know that. That's all right. I think it's hard to deal with uncertainty. And
It is.
yeah.
It is. Dealing with uncertainty is one of the hardest things to do. And that's why I say that administrative processing is really kind of like a black box. You don't know what they're checking. You don't know whether they're checking anything. You don't know how long it will take. You don't know why your case was singled out for administrative processing. You really don't know. And it takes people who expect to be approved and puts them in a case where they don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. When I was waiting for my case, I said to myself, okay, you should keep your life and your work separate from the immigration process. And in that time, I was launching my own business and to focus on my life, to become current, to because at that stage I couldn't do anything. But when I see people have option to take action and they don't do this, and instead of that only waiting and waiting, it's I can't understand it.
Yeah. It's you really have to know that if your case is current and approvable, you have a magic moment where you are able to get your immigration case processed. We know that mandamus lawsuits are effective. Will they be effective a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 6 months from now? I really don't know. The world is filled with uncertainty. We've had plenty of clients who were frustrated when, for one reason or another, the consulates in their home country closed.
Oh
Just
my
closed.
God. Yeah.
And the worst example
For
is
Afghan.
our Afghan friends. When the Taliban took over, all the documentation was lost.
Oh my
Done.
God.
And we had plenty of Afghan clients prior to the Taliban takeover who were delayed. And I talked to them, and a lot of them said, well, I'm just going to keep waiting. I'm going to give it a little more time. I'm going to see. And they would say, well, I don't want to file a mandamus lawsuit because it's not guaranteed to be approved. But what in life is guaranteed?
Yeah, and I think we should learn about this experience. If this happens for some countries, maybe it happens to us as well.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'm thinking about as well are people who are waiting for their immigration cases, and we have this election coming up next year, and if Donald Trump is elected president, then I don't think that anyone will get a visa indefinitely. I think that especially if you're from a majority Muslim country, that's going to be shut down completely.
Oh my
Probably
God.
other places as well. And
Yeah.
when he ran for president in 2015, I thought to myself, there's no way that Trump could shut down our immigration system. But
But he did.
nevertheless, that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. So دوستان عزیز تا زمان هست قبل از انتخابات بعدی میتونید اقدام کنید که کیس شما سریعتر به نتیجه برسه و سریعتر ویزاتون رو بگیرید. وارد سایت jgolla.com بشید. اونجا یک کویز هست برای اینکه بتونید کیستون ارزیابی کنید و تیم حقوقی بررسی میکنن ببینن به صلاح هست که شما منdamus فایل کنید یا نه. اگر که پاسخ مثبت بود شما یک جلسه رایگان خواهید داشت و میتونید سوالاتتون رو بپرسید و بعد در مورد هزینه‌اش صحبت کنید. Okay, that's great. Let's go to the next question.
Sure.
In Telegram groups, I've seen many cases that are dismissed. Does it mean mandamus is not as effective as before?
So, does a mandamus lawsuit, is it effective in every single case? No, it's not. Does every single client who hires us for mandamus get approved or get a decision quickly? No, they don't. Not every single person gets approved. Not every single case gets approved very quickly, but the vast majority of them do. We do not take every single case just because people think that it's been delayed. We have strict guidelines that vary based on the hardship, based on how long someone's waited, based on the case type, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we only take cases that have merit where we think that the case, the client will get a great result. But even when we do that, we get delays. We get cases that take longer than we wish, and we get cases that ultimately end up being denied. I think that that it's probably a very small percentage of these cases. As far as I think when the person said cases that are being dismissed, I think what they're talking about is cases where the government responds with a motion to dismiss. And it's very different. Having the government file a motion to dismiss is very different than having a case that's dismissed. If the government files a motion to dismiss, the court considers the motion, and we have a chance to respond to the motion to dismiss and to fight back. And oftentimes, people will get approved during this back and forth. We had other cases where we even had a case where the government filed a motion to dismiss, and the motion to dismiss was granted. We lost in court, but the client got the visa shortly after that. So I think it's really important conceptually to keep in mind that the lawsuit doesn't always work in all situations. There are cases where it doesn't work, and that's just the way it is. But also that the ultimate goal is not to win in court. The ultimate goal, the real goal, is to get the visa approved quickly, or to get your green card or your asylum or whatever's at stake. You want to reach your immigration goal. You don't really care what happens in court. What happens in court is simply a tool to make the system work the way it should work without a lawsuit.
So that's great. So you're saying that sometimes motion to dismiss is just part of the process, and there are applicants with motion to dismiss experience that they got their visa, right?
Motion to dismiss is part of the process. We get them in, my guess is we get them in 1 out of 5 cases. And when we get a motion to dismiss, it's not something that we get upset about, or it doesn't mean that the case is unsuccessful. It doesn't mean that the person won't get a good result. There's only 2 possibilities you're going to get in a mandamus lawsuit. You're going to get a motion to dismiss, or you're going to get an extension. And neither of those mean that you're going to get a bad result. It just means that this is part of the process. And, you know, it means that you didn't get your visa approved within 60 days of when we file. And the government has to file something. They file a motion to dismiss, or they file an extension. The motions to dismiss that they file are typically templates. They have no case-specific information. They just file it to file it. That's all they're doing.
Okay, let me translate that. دوستان عزیز، سوالی که مطرح شد این بود که یکی از دوستان گفتن اخیراً توی گروه تلگرام دارن میبینن که در واقع کیس زیادی داره دیسمیس میشه. آیا به این معنی هست که مندیمس به مثل گذشته مؤثر نیست؟ آقای جاش گفتن که مندیمس برای همه کیس ها جواب نمیده و راه حل مناسب برای همه کیس ها نیست. یعنی در واقع همه نباید و نمیتونن مندیمس فایل کنن و اینکه کیسایی هست که جواب نداده، ولی برای اکثریت کیسا مندیمس افکتیو هستش و اینکه بعضی از کیسا که موشن تو دیسمیس شدن در نهایت ویزاشون رو گرفتن و نظر ایشون این هستش که موضوع این نیستش که داخل پروسه چه اتفاقی میفته. اینکه کیس به کورت هم بره یک بخشی از اون پروسه هست، ولی در نهایت مهم اینه که شما به هدفهای مهاجرتتون برسین که دریافت سریعتر ویزاست و اینکه گاهی اوقات کورت یا اکستنشن میزنه یا موشن تو دیسمیس میزنه که موشن تو دیسمیس رو گفتن اکثر اوقات یه تمپلیت هست و بک اند فورس با کورس میبرن جلو و بعضی اوقات طرف تونسته ویزاش رو بگیره. بنابراین نگران این موضوع نباشید. آقای جاش گولدستین یک فیلتر دارن که برای کیس ایوالویشن تا مطمئن بشن که مندیمس برای کیس شما گزینه خوبیه، ولی هیچ گارانتی نیستش که شما وقتی مندیمس فایل میکنید حتما ویزا بگیرید. Okay, all right.
Yes. Any other questions?
Sure. My husband, who is an U.S. citizen, applied for me last year. Should I upload our photos and screenshots of our chats on UNSTUCK website, or I should bring them to the interview?
So the question is what you should do with proof that, how do you share the proof that your marriage relationship is genuine with the consulate or embassies, right? The answer is let me give you a general answer, and that is you need to follow the process. So when you file your I-130 visa petition, You need to follow the instructions for that. When you then after that, you're going to get to the National Visa Center. They're going to ask you for fees, forms, documents, and information. You need to follow that process. And then when you get to your interview stage, they're going to again ask you to provide information and documents and follow a process. So in all those situations, they're going to do that. You should not come up with your own idea of where you're going to send this. You need to follow their specific instructions. And it's not always so straightforward. And that's one of the reasons why people hire law firms like ours to help them with the process, so that they're given expert advice and they can be guided through the process. I think it's a great idea to collect that information, but where you provide it and when and how is guided by the instructions.
Okay, that's good to know. دوست عزیزمون پرسیدن که همسرشون که شهروند امریکا هستن سال گذشته براشون درخواست دادن و در مورد عکس ها و چت هایی که با هم کردن، اسکرین شات هایی که ازش دارن رو کجا باید ارائه بدن؟ آیا توی سایت سیاک باید این ها رو آپلود کنن یا اینکه بعد روز اینترویو همراه با خودشون ببرن؟ آقای جوش توضیح دادن که این مدارک رو حتما جمع آوری کنید و اینکه چه زمانی و کجا بخواید اینها رو ارائه بدین بستگی داره به اینستراکشنی که براتون میفرستن. و یکی از کارهایی که تیم حقوقی ایشون انجام میده این هستش که به شما ادوایس میدن که دقیقاً چه مدارکی رو آماده کنید که نشون بده ازدواج شما واقعی هستش و به چه صورت اونها رو ارائه بکنید. ولی به طور کلی این مدارک رو شما آماده داشته باشید و منتظر باشین که از طرف انگلیسی یا سفارت به شما بگن که اینستراکشن چی هست و به چه شکلی اونها رو ارسال کنید. Okay, all right. Thanks for your questions, guys. Let me invite them to come to our Telegram channel. دوستان عزیز ما کانال تلگرام داریم. آیدیش هست ویزاز فور ایرانیان. شما میتونید که وارد این کانال بشین، از اطلاعات استفاده کنید و سوالات خودتون رو از ما بپرسید. سوالاتی که تخصصی هست من برای آقای جاش گلدستین میفرستم، ایشون پاسخ میدن. یه سری سوالات رو توی لایو مثل همش پاسخ میدیم و سوالاتی هم که بتونم خودم جواب میدم. Okay, all right.
All right. Thank you so much.